Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. It's the middle of August, and my goodness, we actually have some hockey news to discuss. But as always, we will turn the show over to the person on the right here for the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, so about a month ago, I wrote about the Hassan Reddick New York Jets saga, and I wrote at the time that Howie Roseman burnt the Jets. He burnt them because he knows the player. He knew what he was asking for. He knew he didn't want to pay it. And so he got an immediate third-round pick for it. Could turn into a second, right? So the Jets get the player. They had to know there's a certain amount of money the guy's looking for. If he only gets 10 sacks, the Eagles get a second-round pick, by the way, which I believe Howie put in there because he knew he wasn't going to play a full season. He knew he'd probably hold out if he didn't get his money. So if he played even, 10 games, he might get 10 sacks. So he did that. He put that in there. And Joe Douglas fell for it all. And now, Hassan Reddick's been holding out. And, there's all this stuff going back and forth. And the biggest thing is the miscalculation of Joe Douglas not keeping Bryce Huff, and actually because the Eagles got Huff and signed him because the Jets didn't want him. And he was the Jets' leading sack guy. Now, granted, it was the first time he had that many sacks, a young player, blah, blah, blah. But the Jets didn't want to pay him. So they thought they were being smart, and they would get Reddick to show up probably at a much greater discount than what he was asking for the Eagles. They didn't. So now it's like the Jets lost two players. Now Reddick will eventually play because he doesn't want to get fined the whole year. Right. But he'll come in. He'll be out of shape. It's going to take him 2 or 3 games to get there. And this is all on Joe Douglas. And I think people are finally coming around on that. But it's like, that's just bad GMing.
Okay. We have stuff to discuss, so I won't elaborate. Mike, is your new favorite team the Blues? Oh, well, we'll get to that, Randy. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, August 14th, 2024.
I'm Bill Meltzer.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology and NHLDraftBuzz.com.
And I'm Michael Agello, and I'm Doug Armstrong's best friend. And this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, the reason I say that, and thank you for queuing it up, Randy Flamester, the St. Louis Blues decided to stick it right where the sun don't shine on the Edmonton Oilers with not one, but 2 offer sheets.
Yeah.
2 offer sheets, one to defenseman Philip Broberg, the other to winger center Dylan Holloway. The Broberg deal is in the 4.5 range. The Dylan Holloway deal is in the 2.9 range. I think they're both like $1 less than what the compensation would be.
Yes.
So they went right up to the edge. And they had to make a trade with Pittsburgh to get their own second-round pick back so they could do that in case Edmonton doesn't match the offer. So, okay, Russ, you first, then Bill. Is Doug Armstrong your new best friend?
I mean, no. He's a desperate GM trying to just get somebody in there for Torrey Krug. Broberg is not a top 4 guy. He's already 23. He's never completed a full season of anything. He hasn't even had a full AHL season. Like, if you're going to look at these 10 games he played in the playoffs with sheltered minutes and think he's worth 4.8, forget it. I mean, I get it. It's not a long-term contract, but it's going to hurt when the Blues realize after this year that they have to start rebuilding, and now they're stuck with him for another year because, the best you could hope for is a 30-point season out of him. I don't even think you can get that. But that's the best I think you could hope for. So now the Holloway thing is interesting. Now I think Edmonton will re-sign him. It's not much money. He showed a lot in the second half of the season. So I think Holloway center, he's going to get signed. If I'm Edmonton, I'd let Broberg walk. I'm not paying that money.
Well, okay, so I'll give you the accurate amounts here. Broberg is $4.58917 million. And Holloway is $2.29457 million. So it's not 2.9. It's actually not too bad. But Bill, he doesn't have a great portfolio when it comes to the NHL. But Russ is right. Holloway has shown something. With Broberg, he has played a total of 81 NHL games and has 13 points.
Yeah, they're all there's ever been with Broberg has been flashes. There are moments in games of where he looks really good. He looks like what he was hyped to be, but they're just fleeting. They're just moments.
Mm-hmm.
And now, would he be the first player, particularly a young defenseman, ever to struggle for a while and then the light bulb goes on? No, he wouldn't.
Right.
Are the odds of that great? I would say no. And as you point out, Mike, it is right to the dollar. $1 more, and it would have been a first round pick on him, and Edmonton would have absolutely said, "We'll take the pick. We'll take the first round pick." And the other one too would have been a second rounder. This way it's a third rounder by being $1 cheaper. So I do think that they'll match on the one on Holloway. I think that they will still let Broberg walk, take the second rounder. Although, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure with the way their cap is and all the rest of that, they didn't want to spend that much on them to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where Armstrong screwed. And the funny thing is, Russ, I heard potential motivations here because Armstrong's one of his best buddies apparently is Ken Holland, his golfing buddy. So Ken Holland gets ousted from Edmonton, whereas supposedly he may have wanted to stay, but they decided to move on. They bring in Stan Bowman, a Central Division rival of Doug Armstrong, so that possibly is a motivation. I mean, I think
this is a stick it to Stan kind of moment. I do, and also I am shocked, and Mike, I know you'll be shocked at this, that Elliot Friedman wrote that the Oilers could have traded Cody Ceci and they didn't.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Now, he did say on his podcast this morning that avenue is still open to them. I would suggest doing it because Cody Ceci is frigging horrible. And you saw that in the playoffs. I mean, he made Darnell Nurse look horrible just by his stench got on Darnell Nurse, and that's how bad he was. But here's the other thing, Bill. And I just discovered this about 20 minutes ago before when I was looking up stuff for the show. Broberg's agent is, Maple Leaf fans, remember this name, Darren Ferris.
I'm Morgan Frost's agent too.
Morgan Frost's agent and Mitch Marner's agent. So if you're expecting any discounts, he just got and supposedly they were talking to Broberg about I think it was a $1.8 million 1-year offer, and he gets basically 2.5 times that.
Yeah, I mean
of course he's going to sign for that.
Of course.
Yeah, and obviously, happy to switch cities if and when it isn't matched, which I assume it won't be. I mean, for the player, absolutely no brainer. The other one too, even the Holloway one, it's a no brainer. You sign it, and it's just the nature of the business. Today, guys, is today is the anniversary of a very significant offer sheet in NHL history.
Is it the Weber one?
It was not the Weber one.
Oh,
it was so 27 years ago today.
Okay, so that's 1997.
Yes, the Flyers signed Chris Gratton, Tampa Bay at the time, to just a totally front-loaded offer sheet, which Tampa was having big financial problems at the time.
Right, and let's remember the motivation for that. Chris Gratton shut down or did a pretty good job shutting down Eric Lindros in a playoff series. And wasn't it Bobby Clark that said, well, if I can get this guy on my team, then he can't shut down Lindros.
Yeah, he did have a very physical series against the Flyers when he went to Tampa. And really he had, if you go back to the 95, 96, 97 season, he had a 30-goal year in Tampa, but what people didn't realize, and people didn't really break things down by month back then, 14 of his goals that year came in the month of January. He was just scorching hot in January, and then he had 16 goals the rest of the season combined. the Tampa, of course, again, they had all those financial issues. And so the Flyers, it was a 5-year, $16 million deal, but $9 million of it, almost $9 million, was front loaded.
Oh, jeez.
So Tampa couldn't match it, and and then so the way they worked it, I'm surprised other teams haven't done this because you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So a team doesn't. So Tampa didn't match.
Right.
The Flyers gave them 5 first-round picks as compensation, and then immediately, Tampa traded the 5 first-round picks back to Philadelphia. They got Michael Renberg.
Right.
They got Carl Dykhouse. They got some minor pieces to it. But that's really even though it was technically not a trade, it was really worked as a kind of a trade.
Right.
And really, you mentioned the Weber thing. I really thought that was
Bill. That's and I talked about this on Locked On Flyers the other day. We had a what if episode. That's exactly what the Rangers did with Nashville when Nashville selected Richter in the expansion draft.
Right. Oh, they worked as a trade. Yeah.
The Flyers seem to be the epicenter of the offer sheet because wasn't there an offer sheet to Ryan Kessler back in the day? Yeah, that was
Kessler, which Vancouver matched.
Yes.
But the Gratton one backfired.
The Gratton one, boy, I could do a whole episode on that. It's just too long ago. But it pissed off Rod Brindamore.
Yeah.
Who was and Roddy got moved to the third line center. It forced Dina Zubris at 19 years old to jump up into the top line, and he wasn't ready for that. I mean, in any way, shape, or form, it was a disaster. And then a year later,
it's not like Rod Brindamore was ever going to be a Selke candidate, right?
No, not at all.
They would never win a Selke trophy. No.
I remember when the Flyers force fed Dina Zubris and Yanni Nienema into the lineup as 19 and 20-year-olds. It was ridiculous. But let's go back to Edmonton here for a second because I just want to make this point. Okay. This is where I think St. Louis did a up yours to Edmonton because it wasn't a 1-year deal. It was a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Now, they may not match Broberg. They may match Holloway, but they're going to pay more than they wanted to pay Holloway. And the complicating factor, now, Edmonton, there are some people who say they think they're going to take the full 7 days. There are some people who are saying they are going to match both of them. I think they're going to, but would it surprise me? No. What they may do is Evander Kane, who is making $5.125 million. He may be undergoing hip surgery. Mm-hmm. And if he does undergo hip surgery, then what he would be on LTIR, pretty much, it's a little more, but pretty much balances out to what those two contracts make.
What happens when he comes back in February?
Right. That would mean he would have to play. That'd mean he'd have to sit the entire year. It would be a Mark Stone type situation.
Yeah.
So if that happens, then maybe.
But is it okay? So now you have to ask yourself the question: is it worth it to keep Broberg on a bad salary,
right,
and lose Kane for the whole year when you wouldn't have lost him for the whole year most likely? Like I don't think that's worth it.
No, I don't think it's worth it, but the solution here besides putting Kane on LTIR would be to trade Ceci. And what Elliot Friedman said was that he doesn't think that would be, there are teams. I don't know what teams
teams are lining up for.
I don't know. There must be 3 or 4 blind, deaf and dumb teams.
Unless Ottawa wants him back because he's from the area, he played in 67s. But otherwise, I don't get it.
No, maybe it's Utah to get to the cap floor or something. I don't know. All I know is that it doesn't make any sense. But it sounds like Edmonton is going to take the full 7 days. So I will see. But
I was going to say, I mean, if you're trading CC, there's no other way around than offering some kind of sweetener, especially at this point. These teams know they have you over a barrel, so they're gonna get an asset back too. It's not just about CC; it's really about what asset comes with taking them off their hands.
It'll be the same as the Pittsburgh-Nashville deal. Yeah. Same thing.
Well, that was the other. I was going to mention that the Penguins made 2 deals. They made the draft pick deal that made this offer sheet situation possible, and then they traded picks to Nashville for Cody Glass. Now, Cody Glass seemed to have a little bit of a bounce back in Nashville after his struggles after being drafted by Vegas. But I'm a little surprised at this one. He's making $2.3 million. And, this is the thing I don't understand. What is Pittsburgh doing? They had Kevin Hayes and they add Cody Glass. I mean, they're just doubling down on
That's all they're doing. They're like, we liked Cody Glass back in the day, but unfortunately, Cody Glass is like a half-court guy. His speed is not there. It's never come around. So he has good hands. Like, he's in the offensive zone. He's around. Sure, he could score some goals, but he's not going to do what you'd hoped he would do. Kevin Hayes, we know what Kevin Hayes is like. He's going to have, an okay season there. He'll look good at times, and other times he'll be lost. They at least got draft picks, Mike, so at least they could back that up and say, look, we got draft picks, so that's helping out for the future. But look, they're in the mud. They're in that mushy middle now, and it's bad.
Yeah, the whole deal was Glass with a 3 in the 2025 draft and a 6 in the 2026 draft for Jordan Frasca. So they did get picks. Now Frasca, 23 years old, played in the ECHL. So it was basically take this guy, take this contract. I don't even know if it's an AHL or an NHL deal, but take this guy off our hands. Glass scored 14 goals 2 years ago in Nashville, Bill. But last year, I must have struggled with injuries because he only played 41 games, 6 goals, 7 assists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see this one, but we'll see. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, half the time I don't know what Pittsburgh is doing. It's not like this. It's not like a great shakes return. Yeah, they're getting some picks. You're not getting any real high end picks out of it.
Right.
I think they just want fans to show up, Bill. So they're making moves, and it's like, hey, look, we got new guys.
Yeah.
Come see the old guys, and we got a few new guys.
Yeah, I mean, and other than trying to sell tickets for a while longer, they're in for a very long rebuild with no real prospects to build around right now.
But they keep putting it off. I mean, I'm saying they re-sign Letang, they re-sign Jari, they re-sign Malkin, they bring in Achari, and I mean it's they're gonna crater so bad that they'll probably get the first pick in the draft when there's a generational player.
They had 2 A prospects, and then the rest is kind of like
yeah. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the item that Elliot Friedman talked about regarding Nashville, and that was the Askarov situation. And I think I mentioned this on the Buzzcast like in July after the UC Saros contract extension, and then Nashville doubles down and adds Scott Wedgwood, a very good backup goaltender who was backing up Ottinger in Dallas, to a 2-year deal. So they really C-blocked Askarov, who had another good year in the AHL, 911 save percentage, 45 games. He's had 2 really good years in the AHL. They've not really given him a chance, Bill. And the suspicion out there is that he has told the Preds, I'm not playing in Milwaukee. Now, Russ will say, and I'll just undercut him a little bit, that he's got no choice. But there is a choice with any Russian player. He could say, I'm going to the KHL and say, screw you. So, I mean, this is a situation. Now, I think they're in a favorable position here because he's a top-end goaltending prospect, and he's 22 years old, and he's still on his ELC. So teams looking for goalies will be lining up for Askarov.
Yeah, and I mean the thing with jumping over to the KHL, because yes, they have that non-interference agreement with the NHL, but that doesn't mean a hill of beans. Right. They violate it all the time. But one thing that they do try to do, particularly with the goalie, is they like to have their roster in shape before the season starts, and like teams anywhere do, and the KHL regular season starts on September 3rd. So if he's jumping and they're in the preseason right now, like he has to tip his hand sooner than later because he's going to need some games to lead up to the season if he's playing over there.
Right, and it would play out like a Radulov situation because he's got his ELC. They'll just toll the contract, and he would have to come back and fulfill that last year. So I think
that's exactly what I would do. I would tell his people, listen. We went with Saros because that's who we went with. If you don't want to play in the AHL and play for us and be a backup for Saros, then go back, go do whatever. But we're going to hold on to your rights, and we'll toll your contract. And Because I don't think they're going to get a good enough offer, Mike. Teams will line up and try and get him for a hill of beans. That's the problem.
I think they'll get a good offer. I mean, honestly,
that's what you call a good offer. Tell me what you think a good offer is.
Well, okay, like I said to you, okay, so the team that I said would probably be first in line would be the LA Kings. Now, and if it's the LA Kings and I'm offering Arthur Kaliev and a first round pick,
I would.
I mean, it's not what I think you should get, but I think I think it's a decent return. It's not great, but in my mind, they have to trade him because it
would be better if they do, but they do not have to.
They do not have to, but he's gonna use the Ray Liotta line from Goodfellas. F you.
Yeah, he might. But you know what? If that were the case, Mike, he'd be playing in the KHL already. Like he could have played there last year.
No,
hold on. He just got mad because the organization gave Saros a contract. But if you're not a team player, hey, I wouldn't mind if Barry Trotz just told him to forget it, kid. You know, you just do what you want to do, but this is your contractual obligation. I'm not taking garbage to move you, and there's no way I would move this guy to the West Coast until anybody who could play against me. There's no way.
Russ, so if Daniel Milstein goes to Barry Trotz and says, okay, he'll play one more year in Milwaukee, and then you're going to lose him for nothing because we're going to go back to Russia.
Yeah, you'll have to play 3 years in Russia where he doesn't want to play.
Well, who knows if you want –
You're making it sound like this is something he wants to do. He doesn't want to – hold on. He doesn't want to play in Russia. He just doesn't want to play for Nashville anymore because he doesn't think he can be
because he's cock-blocked. That's why.
But Mike, that doesn't matter. Who's to say Saros doesn't come down with a career-ending injury 2 years into this contract?
Sure.
You don't know what's going to happen.
No, you don't. But from the Askarov point of view, he sees Saros under contract for 9 more years. This year and 8 more. And Wedgwood for 2 more. So at the absolute best scenario, unless, like Russ said, Saros has he blows 2 ACLs or Wedgwood gets hurt, he's stuck in Milwaukee for another 2 years.
Yeah, they already, I'm talking about the Askarov camp, went about it the wrong way. You privately asked to be moved out. And usually the team will go, keep it quiet, don't make it public, and we'll move him.
Right, they killed his trade value.
It makes it. Goalie trades are kind of hard anyway, especially young goalies.
Right.
But it also gets to be a certain point with Nashville being like, all right, like, is it even worth the trouble to keep litigating this? At some point, you cut your losses and you just move on. And I think they'll get to that point. Whether it's right now, I don't know. But his future clearly is not in Nashville, as you said, he's blocked there.
Yeah, L.A., Carolina with their Kochetkov, Anderson combo. One who's got a year left in his contract, and Kochetkov, they never seem to commit to him. Montreal with Samuel.
Arguments. Here's devil's advocate. If they're not committing to Kochetkov, they're not going to commit to Askarov. There's no big difference between the two goalies.
There's one they're paying Kochetkov over $2 million, and Askarov is making $925. If you think Askarov is a better goaltender than Kochetkov, then it makes sense.
He still won't play for Brind'Amour. Either way, neither guy's going to play for Brind'Amour unless he's desperate. He just doesn't want to play those guys.
Montreal with Caden Primo, who I think is a good young prospect, and Samuel Montembeault. Ottawa with both Ullmark and Anton Forsberg in the final year of their contracts. You don't know whether Ullmark is going to sign long-term there. Another one is Utah with Karl Velmelka and Connor Ingram, and they have a boatload of draft picks and prospects. So if Nashville wanted to go that way, and that would make sense for Utah as well. So, I mean, there are teams out there that I think can put together a package that would be beneficial. Russ, I know that Nashville is a now team, but if they get a bunch of draft picks and prospects for Askarov and then turn around and trade them at the deadline to get help to make a cup run, it is beneficial.
They're not going to get a team's top prospect. So, like you said, LA. If I can't get Brant Clark, there's almost nobody else I'd want from that team.
Okay.
So
would you take Victor Soderstrom in a first-round pick?
No.
Okay.
No, Soderstrom is fuzzy now. I don't even know if he's an NHLer anymore. Like, that's what you're going to get, though. Those are the exact offers that are going to come in for Askarov, and that's why what Bill said is, I'm not doing this deal right now.
By the way, playing the role of Mike Agello is Russ Cohen.
No, I'm actually playing a better role because what I'm
no, you're playing me.
Nobody get out, Mike.
This is like Kamala Harris taking Trump's political points and stealing them and saying these are mine.
What I am doing is saying, kid, you could just twist in the wind and maybe his value goes up if there's injuries in the league. Right now, nobody's injured, so I'm not getting great offers for him.
But there are teams, Bill. There are teams out there that need goaltending.
Yeah, but teams are already set with their goalie for the year. Like the LA is like, look, Darcy
the LA Kings, Bill, are not set with Darcy Kemper.
They are. That's why they got him. In their minds,
no, they took Darcy Kemper to get rid of Dubois.
Yeah, it was more than that.
They don't. I don't think that they think that their goaltending is set, Bill, with Darcy Kemper, David Rittich, and Phoenix Copley.
Right, and with playoff aspirations at that. So, yeah, they're not set, but they're not going to make the move, in August or before.
No. Camp. And Andrew in the chat says they're still hoping that Portillo turns into something. Maybe.
Yeah, Portillo's a long shot.
Yeah. So, all right. Continuing on our trend here to discuss project the 2026 Olympic teams. We did the U.S. on Friday. We did Canada on Monday. Now today. And Bill has really good knowledge of the Swedish leagues and Swedish players. We're going to do Team Sweden. I start with the goaltending, and this is not the era of Henrik Lundqvist. The list that I saw had Linus Ullmark, Jesper Wallstedt, and Philip Gustafsson.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty. On target.
That's a good.
Yeah, and Markstrom will be really
he'll be
years by then.
Yeah,
maybe, but he has to develop some more consistency. Maybe a guy like Samuel Ersson could be a backup option. I'd only be the number one, but I think that pretty much what you're going to see, I think in the Four Nations in 2024 could still be what's in goal for them in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, right now Gustafsson is probably the leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah, if Markstrom has a big year in New Jersey, then he might put himself on because do I think Wallstedt's going to be a good NHL goaltender? Yes, but he's played 2 years in Iowa and is in the AHL, and he's done really well. But if Markstrom has a big year, even at age 34, going to 35 in New Jersey, they may say, okay, he's going to be the number 2 or the number 3 behind Ullmark. But who knows what kind of year Ullmark's going to have. Ottawa's defense is terrible.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to have a big year in Ottawa. Ottawa is defensively challenged. So I think and how they do this year, I think will affect what.
Yeah, Ullmark. That's why I think Ullmark has to prove it. I think he has to prove it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Defensively, there are no-brainers. To me, Victor Hedman is a no-brainer. Rasmus Dahlin is a no-brainer. Yeah. Then you get into, are these guys going to be too old? Are they going to slow down? It's an NHL ice surface. It's not the Olympic ice surface. And I think that'll be a factor. Now, Bill, Erik Karlsson's won 3 Norrises.
And it's the legacy, the reputation, whatever.
It
was like Paul Coffey being on Team Canada after he really shouldn't have been on Team Canada anymore. I consider that to be
it's like Boreas Salming making the Olympic team at age 40. It's Boreas Salming. He's going to make it.
But there's one thing. There's definitely a plethora of really good Swedish defensemen in the NHL. Nobody even talks about Gustav Forsling, but he had a hell of a year this year.
Yeah. Well, and I think he's on this list. I think he's one that I think will be in the mix. But yeah, no, I mean, but obviously Carlson, because he's so he's such a legacy player. But I think he's 34 right now, so he'd be 36. I mean, if he can still skate, and if he can still skate, then he'll probably be there. What do you think, Russ?
I think Carlson will be there. Yeah, I think just exactly what Bill said. Even if he's only scoring 70 points a year, he's still going to be there.
Yeah, he'll be 35 when the Olympics happen. The other one who is a very good defensive defenseman, but you have to be concerned about him slowing down, is Matthias Ekholm.
Yeah.
Now, I think if it was like this February, I would say no doubt. But Bill, what do you think? I mean, I think there's a possibility he could be on the bubble because of his speed.
Yeah, I would think that barring some kind of a big fall off, he'll be on there. Now you sometimes hear names for Four Nations, probably because he had a bounce back year last year, but I don't have Oliver Ekman-Larsson, for example, in 2026.
No,
I don't either. I think that was just a nice year for him, and yeah, I'm with you.
Well, I'll just say this: if he has a big year in Toronto, and the eyeball, and he's again another sort of, not to the level of Carlson, but he's on a legacy player, and he's a couple years younger. I think he's 32 or 33. Then it's possible. But I don't think it's likely.
You don't want a slow defense in the Olympics. You don't.
No.
I'm just saying that's where they can run into trouble.
Now, Forsling is one I think definitely would be in the mix. I believe he's a right shot, so they're not, Dahlin is a lefty who plays the right side, so they could do that. But in terms of right shot defensemen, Forsling, Rasmus Anderson, Timothy Liljegren. I think Liljegren's a long shot unless he has a big year with the Leafs. The one I thought was interesting, on the left side, Hampus Lindholm. I think that's a sort of a no-brainer. This one, because he really hasn't made his mark in the NHL, is Edmonton.
Yeah, he'll be on the list, and it depends how he does, but he's 6'6", and he can hit like a ton of bricks when he wants to. So he'll get consideration.
Yeah.
And in terms of like a veteran PK kind of a guy, I wouldn't jump at adding Adam Larson, but that's who I could see there in a PK kind of a role.
He's a right hand shot, and Russ, I don't poo-poo Jonas Brodin. Jonas Brodin is just a solid guy. I mean, he's not spectacular, but he's just a solid guy, and he's not slow. So I think he'd be in the mix. Now, was your secret guy that you were talking about? Is he a defenseman or is he a forward?
No, forward.
Forward. Okay.
No, because like Dan B said, Axel Sandin Pellica, it's not his time yet. So I don't think they would, even though he's playing in the SHL, he hasn't put up a big year. Even if you put up 2 really nice years in the SHL or 1 nice one there, 1 in the AHL, I still think they have enough NHL options where they probably would not use them.
Okay, so
as good as I think he is.
Okay, so shifting to forward here. Well, let's go with the no-brainers.
Yeah.
Elias Pettersson, no-brainer. William Nylander, no-brainer. Philip Forsberg, no-brainer. Gabriel Landeskog,
if healthy.
He won't be able to play.
Yeah, if healthy. I mean,
he's not healthy. He's practically retired. He's not going to play.
I know, Russ, but there's some talk about him playing. I'm saying if he's healthy. I mean, what do you? Yeah. I mean, okay. I could say Nicholas Backstrom if he went to Lords and people laid his hands on him.
If they had DraftKings odds right now, I would bet against Landeskog, and I like the player, believe me.
Right. Mika Zibanejad, no brainer.
Yeah.
Elias Lindholm. If you listen to Russ,
but for the Olympics, he's going to make it.
Okay. Lucas Raymond,
no brainer.
Okay, then it gets into areas where Russ is going to bring up somebody, but I'll just go through these names and see what people think. Is it too early for Leo Carlson?
I think he'll go. I think he'll be.
I think he'll be on it.
Yeah.
He plays two-way.
Okay. Adrian Kempe.
A player I really like, but to me, he's really bubble.
Spotty.
He's a bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Joel Eriksson Ek.
Probably.
Yeah. Bottom six. I love the two-way kind of guys.
Yeah.
You
know. William Karlsson.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Center. I mean, that's
but that's a maybe. I think.
And he can play. I think on a team like this, he could play a bottom six, like third line, fourth line center. Jesper Bratt.
Yeah, he was on my list. Yeah, I think he'll go.
Okay. If I didn't mention before, Lucas Raymond, I think is a no-brainer.
He's a no-brainer.
Okay, Russ, enlighten us here.
Vigo Bork. Vigo Bork is dynamic, and I think every once in a while there's a young guy in the Olympics who makes it. He's 17, 18, and he is going to be, a top 5 pick in 2026, and he's already making waves in international competitions. And if you watch him, you're like, it would be hard to at least not invite him and see what he could do for you.
Okay. Bill, are we missing anybody glaring?
No, nobody glaring. If Alexander Holtz can get his head out of his backside and figure things out, he's got the talent.
He does.
2 years away, so that's not impossible.
No.
I had some other guys who were veterans, like aging kind of guys.
Well,
I think that there would have been a point where, particularly when he was with the Capitals, where I would have had Andre Burakovsky, for example, on the list.
Oh yeah. There definitely was a time.
But I wouldn't say now for 2 years. I think you hit the names that are, I think, most likely to be on the roster.
Yeah. No, I think. I mean, I did a. Somebody said Jonathan Lekkerimäki. I
think he'll get consideration the same way like Edstrom will get consideration because he's a center and he plays second line center for Frölunda, and so like these guys like Vigo Bork, they'll get invited to like the big camp to see what they can do. Lekkerimäki's got a heck of a shot. So if Holtz isn't scoring, I might have to put him in. And
on defense, and I followed this guy for the first 4 years of his career when he was a Leaf first-round pick. That's Rasmus Sandin. I like him. The Capitals made a big commitment to him contract-wise. He's had problems staying healthy. If he can stay healthy and put up a big year, I think because he's not overly fast, but he's got great vision. He's a good passer. He's a good offensive player. So I could see that. And he played internationally for Sweden at the World Junior. So I could
be loaded with offensive defensemen. That's the problem for Sandy. Yeah.
That's why a guy like Ekholm will be like their Mark Edward Vlasic, the shutdown. Even if he's slow to step, he's a veteran guy.
If Edmonton looks like he's an NHLer at that point at 6'6", he could change some things on the ice.
But I'll say this: Rasmus Dahlin will play 30 minutes a night.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
They'll load up on him. So.
Yeah, he'll be their big guy.
Okay. All right. Good show, guys. We'll be back on Friday with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Bill Meltzer, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.